Hi, I'm Susan Seay, and I am here with Shari Braendel, and I just wanted to share with you a little bit about Shari and why I had Shari come to do an event here in Austin, Texas, because I know that I was searching for someone who could speak to fashion issues, beauty issues, that meeting of the inner beauty and the outer beauty, and she was the one. She was the person who was willing to speak to the Christian women, and I think others would have great benefit from her coming to their city, speaking to their groups, equipping their women. So here we are with Shari. Hi, Shari.
Hey.
And I would love for you to speak to those women leaders around our country who are wanting to pull together events to really help their women right where they are. And I know that beauty, fashion, image issues are relevant for women of all ages.
Right.
And that's something you speak to, right?
It is. It is. I am privileged to be able to go around the country and speak to women's organizations and churches, especially from a Christian perspective. And God has allowed me to have this ministry for about 8 years now. And when He first called me to this ministry, I thought, oh my gosh, take outer beauty to women in the church? There's no way. They're gonna shut me down.
That conversation just is not happening.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Because there's so many women within the church who are like, oh my goodness, no, fashion is so frivolous. But what we have to understand is that fashion is relevant
Yes.
to the Christian woman, and style is relevant. And I see women everywhere who kind of think, oh my gosh, you know, I want to hear about the fashion perspective, but I don't feel good about who I am.
Yes.
And I think the enemy would like to keep us there.
Yes.
I think he'd like to keep the women in our churches kind of, you know, stuffed down and not feeling confident in who they are in Christ. And I get the privilege of sharing with them that they are beautiful, that they are okay in the body that they're in, whether they're fluffy or thin. It's not fat anymore. So
Love
fluffy
it.
or thin
Love
or
it.
tall or small or whatever it is, that they are okay in their body.
Yes.
And so I get to travel and speak to women all over and help them to see themselves as beautiful. And all along the way, give them practical guidelines
Yes.
on how to dress.
Yes.
And what to do when they go to the mall, and what to do with those clothes that seem completely immodest
Yes.
at the you know, in the stores. And so how do they put themselves together, and how do they dress their girls?
And the great thing about what you're doing is that you're not just a woman from the church who's stood up and said, okay, I want to encourage everybody. You come with expertise, you come with really in-depth knowledge about how to pull a look together and the guidelines for beauty.
Yes.
You're considered by Zondervan to be America's premier Christian speaker on issues of beauty, of fashion, and all of that. So would you speak to the background that you have in this? Why should someone listen to you? Who are you, and what could you teach us?
Well, first of all, I do have a degree in fashion merchandising, and I've been in the fashion industry for more years than I should probably tell you. I'm really old. But the thing is, I have a heart for girls. I have a heart for girls from ages 9 to 90, and that's what the beautiful thing is. I think this event is one of those events where women will walk away changed. And we can speak to them all day long about their inner beauty, but if they do not feel confident on the outside, I don't care how much you say to them, there is a disconnect. And so one of two things is going to happen. They're going to feel insecure on who they are on the outside, and they may be the most beautiful woman ever on the inside, but there's that disconnect. The second thing is, though, is that we are a walking advertisement for Jesus.
Yes.
And I may be the only Jesus, you may be the only Jesus that someone meets today.
Right.
And if you are not put together and feeling confident, then again, there's a disconnect.
And it sends a message.
It does send a
about
message.
what it means to be a believer, what it means to be a follower of Christ.
Exactly. Oh, if you're walking around with showing all your assets, some guy, I explained that to a man on the plane the other day, and he said, "Oh, that's what you call it in North Carolina." I'm like, "Well, that's what I call it everywhere." But yes, we don't want women in our church showing all their assets.
Yes.
And you know what? Sometimes it's really hard for that pastor to get up on Sunday and share that message with his audience. Or because what's going to happen is he's going to say to his, secretary or his wife, well, you go talk to such and such.
Right.
And they're not going to listen. They're just going to feel offended.
Right.
And so I get to come in and speak from an expert's point of view and say, okay, girls, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yes.
Not what not to do.
Yes.
And there are modesty guidelines.
Yes.
But honestly, we've been telling our Christian women for years on what not to do. And we've been telling our Christian girls what not to do. Don't do this. Don't show your this. Don't show your that.
Yes.
Where I get to come in and say, okay, we know what modesty is.
Yes.
What can we do to help you dress stylish?
Yes.
And understand that your insecurity really is showing with your low-cut top.
Right.
And your lack of confidence really is showing. And so I really help women to understand that when someone looks at them, I don't want their first impression to be, sexy or trashy or, I want it to be, wow, woman of worth.
Yes.
That is someone who I could bring home, as a young boy, I could bring home to my mom as a date or a prospective wife or a friend.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I get to do.
And the young men, we could even speak to that. You talked about the pastors and the distraction for them.
Yeah.
We've got youth that are worshiping together and working together, and that can be a distraction for them too, especially when young ladies don't recognize the message that they send.
Exactly. And you know what? Something that God really impressed upon me a little while ago was that we tend to think of our young men, right? And as a mom of a son, I want the girls around him to be dressing appropriately.
Yes.
But you know who I think that our women forget about is their girlfriends. The Bible tells us to be, compassionate and dress with compassion, clothe ourselves with compassion and humility and gentleness and patience. But let's be considerate and compassionate and kind to our friends so they aren't feeling bad when their husband walks in the room if I'm showing my boobs to everybody.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And sometimes it's almost one of those light bulb moments like, oh my gosh, I'm upsetting my girlfriends if I dress a certain way.
Yes.
And the other thing I think we have to understand is that we've got a lot of new Christians who come to church. And so, ladies, we can't be judgmental on those women who are dressing like the world. We need women to teach them how to dress.
To equip them, which is what you do. Really equip them and not cause them hurt.
Exactly, exactly. Because the last thing we want to do is tell someone, I want you dressing that way, and then they leave the church.
Right.
What good is that?
Yes.
So we're supposed to do it with love and kindness, and I pray that I do that. And I'm excited that Zondervan believed in me to give me a book contract, and so I got to write about it, but now I get to speak, and I've been speaking to churches and women's groups, all over the country for a long time.
When people come to an event with you, what do they experience? Because I know as I was setting up this event, and I was excited and said, you're going to get a color analysis and a body type assessment, a lot of women went, ooh, what is she going to do?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is not an invasive maneuver here. It's good. It's good.
We're not at the doctor.
And so please, dispel any fears that people have. What is going to happen?
Okay, what is going to happen? Well, first of all, we are going to have so much fun. It's one of those events, and I think the phrase that I hear over and over is, oh, I wish I had invited more of my friends.
Yes.
And didn't you call some of my event planners?
Yes.
From the past? And that's one of the things. But what they're going to get is they're going to get fun, and they're going to get faith, and they're going to get fashion. But they're going to get it from a heart that has come before the Lord and I was a messed up person. I'm not this perfect person, who didn't have a messed up life before she came to Christ,
I hear you.
Yes. And
Yes.
so they're going to hear about that, and they're really going to get practical guidelines
Yes.
on how to leave the event and go home and know what colors look best on them, because every woman is going to get a personal color analysis.
Fun.
And it's fun. It's not invasive, like you
Yes.
said. And we are going to discuss what their body shape is.
Yes.
And that's done from the stage and the audience. They're going to determine by themselves what their body shape is.
Yes.
And we can do this with groups of 50 to 1,500. I mean, I've spoken
Nice.
to, you know, groups is probably 1,500, 2,000 in an audience. So it's not something that, you know, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm never going to get to everyone.
Yeah.
But I do, you know, bring an assistant with me, and we're able to reach out to the women. But so they're going to learn about their coloring. They're going to learn about their body shape. They're going to learn how to accessorize. You know, when you go home and you get that outfit on for church or a special event, and you're like, oh, what necklace should I wear? What do I put with this? I teach them the guidelines for that. And so it's a
Or maybe they're like me. I had like 2 pair of earrings.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had the little studs, and I had like one that kind of drooped just a little. That's it. So I
Okay.
didn't have to work hard. You know, it was
Right.
A or B selection because I didn't know what else to buy.
Exactly. And then I help them to understand body shape and proportion, because as someone who's 5'11", and you're what, like
I'm 5'9".
Okay,
Yeah.
we can't be wearing the little stuff.
Yeah.
Because when we wear the little stuff, we look bigger than we are.
Hello.
So hello.
Don't need that. Don't need any more of that.
So we help the audience, and I help each woman understand what her proportion is. And you know what else I think is a big thing is that clothing personality and style.
Love that
So
part.
many times, you know, we think that a woman should dress like we do.
Right.
You know, this is the way everybody's always done it.
Yes.
When you know what? Women are individuals.
Yes.
God is creative.
Yes.
He's artistic. And we can help women to say, hey, guess what? You can dress, you know, in your creative, artsy self, where maybe I'm more classic, or maybe you're a fashionista. I've got, you know, I'm a fashionista. I've got, you know, my leopard jeans on here today. And depending on your style, I want women to embrace that as a good thing.
Yes.
And not be, again, judgmental of someone who doesn't dress maybe the way that they think they should for church,
Right.
for example. You know, if somebody wants to come in holy jeans, we're at church, right? Or holy jeans and a t-shirt, and it's their first time at church, I'm going to bring them. I'm not going to give them a dress code.
Right.
I'm glad they're there. And that just goes back to what we talked about a little bit ago.
I think it's really rich what you said, that you get to come in and give all of the things that the staff wishes they could say, but don't want to be offensive. But they're not coming with rules and legalism.
Right.
They're coming with a loving, exciting, fun event
Yeah.
where everybody leaves transformed. So
Right.
I hope that as a staff or as women's coordinators, that as you hear Shari's heart and you hear the message that she's sharing across the nation, and thousands of women are experiencing transformation after they hear her, that you would consider having an event for your women so that they can have that same connection between their inner beauty and the things you're teaching them and the outer beauty that they want to also equip themselves with. So thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. It was great to be with you today, and just look forward to spending more time with you.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you.